You wake up already drained, your body stands, but your mind drags itself like it's shackled. The morning hasn't even begun, and yet it feels like everything inside you is already too heavy. Your thoughts, your chest, even the silence weighs something. You glance around and nothing looks out of place. Work waits. Your phone buzzes with requests cleverly disguised as, and the world greets you with its usual false encouragement. Come on, you've got this. But there's a truth buried beneath all of this that few have the courage to say out loud. You're not just tired. You're unwell. And the sickness doesn't belong to you alone. It belongs to the time you live in. We exist in an era where pain has no visible wounds. There are no chains, no supervisors yelling, no public scoldings. Instead, there's something far more subtle and far more vicious, the invisible command to constantly perform. You've become your own tyrant. What used to be orders from outside are now soft compulsions in your own head, whispering that you have to do more, be more, achieve more. Don't rest. Don't stop. Never slow down. Byung-Chul Han calls this stage of performance a social system in which the illusion of freedom hides a new kind of captivity. You think you're free, but you've never been more bound to usefulness, to constant output, to proving your worth in every breath you take. And if you dare to pause, to fall short, to rest, then you believe you're failing. Toxic positivity has replaced honesty. The promise of freedom has turned into chains, and your ability to do anything at all has cursed you with the inability to simply be. Does your chest tighten when you're not busy? Do you feel shame when you're not productive? Do you feel unease when you miss a goal, even if no one noticed but you? This isn't just pressure. It's not just stress. This is burnout, and not the kind a weekend can fix. This is the soul deep kind, the kind that hollows you out even while you wear a perfect mask. And if this all sounds familiar to you, that's because it is. You're not imagining it. You're not weak. You're just trying to stay alive in a system that calls the strongest ones lazy simply for needing to breathe. Breathe. You're not alone in this. And you need to hear this. For a long time, power wore uniforms. It shouted through megaphones, locked doors, barked orders. There were jails, factories, armies, asylums. Tuchel called it the disciplinary society. The logic was blunt. Obey. Someone told you no. They watched you, shaped you, limited you. But that world is fading. And what has replaced it is far more polished, more insidious. Now, no one bans you. No one scolds you. Instead, they smile and tell you, you're free. You can do anything. You are potential in motion. Just focus. Just hustle. Just believe. But here's the trap. The more freedom you're promised, the more you're blamed for every stumble. In this new age, the prison walls are made of ambitions. The punishment is no longer bruises, it's your own disappointment. And the one who punishes you most is you. You've been turned into your own enterprise. And what does a business do? It grows. It scales. It expands. It never sleeps. There's no finish line. Only more. Have you seen how even rest has become another mission? Reading must make you smarter. Meditation must sharpen your mind. Workouts must sculpt. Even sleep must be optimized, measured, scored. Rest isn't rest. It's another step in the quest to perform better tomorrow. You're not living, you're managing, monitoring, maximizing. And when you can't keep up, when your body gives in, when your thoughts scatter, who do you blame? Yourself? Because no one said no. You were free, remember? But that's the cruelty. The new kind of control is the kind that convinces you that you're doing this to yourself. The boss is gone. You took their place. You are the warden. You live inside walls made of expectations, metrics, deadlines, self-surveillance. And worst of all, you can't even see the wall anymore. You think it's you, but if this is crushing you from the inside out, it means something's broken. Something is deeply wrong. It's not natural to be at war with your own body, your own breath, your own rest. And this quiet battle, it leaves marks on your mind, on your skin, on your soul. And that's what we need to face now. Because the thing eating you alive is not some villain out there. It's inside. And it feeds on something you were told was good. Positivity. You've learned to smile while falling apart. To insist everything's fine while you silently implode. To appear strong, composed, enthusiastic when inside you're begging for a break. And why? Because you've been steeped in a new form of violence. One that doesn't strike, doesn't threaten. It flatters, it motivates. It seduces, it's the violence of optimism. As Chul Han warns, repression is no longer the disease of our age. We don't live under strict bans, iron rules, or censors. What breaks us now isn't the you can't, it's the yes, you can. What corrodes you now isn't oppression, overload, too much stimulus, too much freedom, too much cheerful command. Be better, be happy, keep going, smile. But this overload has a cost. Depression, anxiety, burnout, AD, not flaws. Not personal failures, symptoms, responses, signals from minds and bodies that are breaking beneath the pressure. The tragedy is that even in collapse, you blame yourself. Couldn't focus today? Must be lazy. Feeling sad? Must need a new routine. You didn't fail to meditate, journal, reply to every message, so clearly it's you. This is how positivity becomes poison. It doesn't forgive limits, it rejects failure. It erases sadness, slowness, quiet, and the more you twist yourself to match this glowing, productive ideal, the more distant you become from who you really are. You turn into a hollow version of yourself, always smiling, always trying, always exhausted. You don't rest. You reload. You don't feel. You function. But here's the truth beneath all this surface noise. You were not made for this pace. You were not designed to live in a state of constant alert. This way of life was built, it was constructed, and it's been emptying you out piece by piece. Beneath the buzz, beneath the goals, there's something you've lost. Something that might be the only way back. And that is what we need to uncover now. The things you've buried: silence, stillness, boredom. When was the last time you did nothing? Not planned, not scrolled, not answered, not improved, just existed, breathed, felt time unfold without panic. Maybe you don't even know how to anymore, and that's not your fault. You've been trained to avoid stillness. Every quiet second is invaded by alerts, alarms, to-dos, videos, motivation porn. Stillness feels dangerous. Boredom feels like failure. But here's the secret no one's telling you. Real boredom, the kind that lingers, is not a void. It's a doorway. Chul Han explains, in the past, boredom was sacred ground. It gave birth to art, to thought, to presence. True boredom isn't passive. It's powerful. It unsettles. It clears space. It asks who you are, stripped of all tasks and noise. It leads you back to yourself. But today, we're stuck in fractured focus. Our attention darts like prey scanning for danger. We juggle messages while watching content, while worrying about next week, while blaming ourselves for not doing more. Multitasking isn't a skill. It's a survival response. And the cost? Depth, presence, connection. You skim everything, even your own emotions. You feel, but not fully. You reflect, but not deeply. You live, but don't inhabit yourself. That's why you're tired after sleeping, restless during peace, lonely in a crowd. Because your soul has been trained to run and has forgotten how to stop. And stopping is not defeat. Stopping is where healing begins. It's in the silence that truth speaks. In the pause that you notice the wounds. In the stillness that you return, not to your role, but to your being. But returning requires bravery, the courage to slow, to face the discomfort of emptiness, to sit in it long enough for it to transform. And more than anything, the courage to say no to the worship of performance. That brings us to one of the most radical truths in Han's philosophy. A strange, quiet idea, but perhaps the only real escape we have, the freedom of not being able. This notion sounds backwards, doesn't it? We've been conditioned to think that freedom means power, the power to achieve, to go, to build, to become. The more options, the more control, the more you can do, the freer you believe you are. But what if all that power is actually a trap? What if the very thing we call freedom is just another form of bondage, more sophisticated, more invisible, and infinitely more exhausting? The world you live in doesn't say don't. It says do. It doesn't ban you, it dares you. It doesn't silence you. It amplifies your options until the noise is deafening. And in that noise, your worth becomes your output. Your rest becomes performance. Even your inner peace becomes a product. Every second must serve a purpose, and if it doesn't, you feel like you're failing. That's not freedom. That's slavery dressed in motivational slogans. But Byung-Chul Han offers a daring reversal. True freedom, he says, begins when you reclaim the right to not do, the right to not act, not want, not produce. To say, I can, but I won't, I could, but I don't need to. And above all, I don't have to justify myself for doing less, for being still, for simply existing. This is what he calls the freedom of not being able. It's not weakness. It's not failure. It's resistance. It's rebellion. It's healing. Because in today's world, choosing not to participate in the madness is the most radical act there is. Society whispers, you could do more. You should want more, you can always go further. But what if you just don't? What if you're done with running? Done with climbing invisible ladders? Done with proving yourself to people who are also faking it? The answer society gives is brutal. If you stop, you lose. You're irrelevant. You're invisible? And that's the pressure that keeps the machine running. That's why we never pause. Why we keep pushing ourselves even when we're breaking. Because stopping feels like disappearing. But it's not, it's reappearing. Saying no to more is how you say yes to yourself. That's what Han means. Not wanting more. Not improving more. Not chasing every shiny thing. Saying no to what the world insists is necessary in order to return to what actually is. To stop chasing. To stop comparing. To stop optimizing. To stop forcing your humanity into metrics. This refusal, that's your way out. That's your protest. That's your power. Because when you say no to this culture of endless motion, something inside you begins to shift. The guilt starts to fade. The noise starts to soften. And in its place, something else begins to rise. Not ambition, not motivation, but presence. Breath. Awareness. Being. But make no mistake, this isn't easy. This freedom is not comfortable. It's not glamorous. It doesn't come wrapped in productivity apps or lifestyle vlogs. It comes in stillness, in slowness, in facing the void you've been running from. It asks you to be okay with not being spectacular. It asks you to accept the ordinary, to forgive yourself for not being a machine. That's why most people never get there. Because the moment they stop running, the silence terrifies them. They don't know who they are without the chase. But if you can sit in that silence long enough, if you can breathe through that terror, what you'll find is not weakness. It's strength. Not apathy, but clarity. Not loss, but rediscovery. And from that rediscovery, peace. Because here's the most profound truth of all. The one that every part of you has probably felt without knowing how to say it. Your burnout is not a flaw. It's not proof that you failed. It's proof that this life model failed you. It's not your brokenness. It's your soul screaming for something real, something slower, something true. If you've made it this far, it's because that scream is still alive in you. Maybe soft, maybe hidden, but real. And I need to say this clearly. What you're feeling isn't weakness. It isn't mental fragility. It isn't a lack of drive or willpower. It's a normal human reaction to an inhuman lifestyle. You're exhausted because you were never meant to live this way. You weren't made to be a robot. You weren't designed to optimize every moment. You were meant to live, not perform. But this system, it wants your everything. It takes your creativity and turns it into content, your peace and turns it into productivity, your self-worth and turns it into analytics. And if you collapse under it, it tells you to buy a planner. Take a weekend retreat. Download an app. Start a new habit. But what it never tells you is the truth, that this isn't a personal crisis. It's a collective one. This isn't about a few weak individuals falling apart. This is about an entire civilization collapsing under the weight of its own illusions. Chul Han says it plainly. Burnout isn't a rare event. It's the defining condition of our era. Not because a few people can't keep up, but because no one can. Not truly. Not without losing something vital. Your depth, your peace, your soul. And if that sounds dramatic, good, because it is. This pain you're carrying, this numbness that won't lift, this feeling that something is missing even when everything should be okay. This isn't personal failure. It's evidence. It's testimony. You're not alone in it. And it's not your fault. Your body, your mind, your spirit, they're not betraying you. They're protecting you. They're trying to wake you up. And maybe that's why you're still here, still watching, still listening. Because something deep inside you knows that you can't keep doing this and that something is right. But here's the most important thing you need to hear. You don't need to fix it all right now. You don't need a 10-step plan. You don't need to do. The first step isn't action. It's permission. Permission to feel, to rest, to say, I can't. To admit that you're tired, to stop pretending. In the final part of this journey, we're going to talk about that. About what happens when you finally stop trying to be a better version of yourself and just allow yourself to be. Because you were not born for performance. You were born for presence. And your healing starts the moment you remember that. You were not born to prove. You were not born to impress. You were not born to chase endless goals that move further away the closer you get. You were born to exist fully, honestly, imperfectly. And that truth, no matter how buried, still lives inside you. The burnout you feel is not just exhaustion. It's a spiritual alarm. A red light flashing from the deepest parts of your being, saying, this is not the way. And maybe for the first time, you're allowing yourself to listen, to slow, to not override the discomfort with another productivity hack. Maybe you're realizing that the way out isn't through pushing harder, but through surrender. Not surrender as in giving up, but surrender as in letting go, loosening the grip. Releasing the expectation to always be in control, always be achieving, always be on. And in that letting go, something shifts. You start to sense how deeply unnatural this life model has become. You start to see how often you've mistaken stimulation for joy, how often you've confused movement for growth, how often you've traded authenticity for applause. And when you stop even for a moment, you notice it. The ache, the silence, the space you've abandoned within yourself, and that space, that's where you need to return. Not because it's productive, not because it'll make you better, but because it's yours, because it's real. Because the parts of you that have been waiting in the shadows, the parts you buried beneath strategy, performance, self-help, they're not broken. They're just tired of being ignored. And in this quiet return, you start to feel something sacred, your own presence. This is the rebellion. Not the kind that breaks things, but the kind that heals. Not the kind that shouts, but the kind that listens to yourself, to the silence, to the life you were meant to live before the world convinced you had to earn it. And from that space, clarity begins to emerge, not as a goal, but as a grounding. You begin to understand that you are not here to win life. You are here to live it, but living means something different now. It doesn't mean always moving. It means sometimes sitting still. It doesn't mean being everything for everyone. It means being something real for yourself. It doesn't mean having every answer. It means asking better questions. Like, what would my life look like if I stopped trying to optimize it? What would my heart sound like if I finally listened? And maybe you don't know the answers yet. That's okay. You don't need to rush toward a solution. You don't need to fix everything right now. Healing doesn't begin with doing. It begins with allowing the discomfort, allowing the stillness, allowing yourself to feel what you've numbed for so long. Grief, confusion, emptiness, and then maybe peace. That peace doesn't arrive with fanfare. It arrives like a whisper in moments when you least expect it. When you stop performing, when you stop editing yourself, when you finally give yourself permission to just exist without needing to earn that existence. And that's what Han points to, this possibility of another rhythm. One not built on acceleration or ambition, but on being. You will still live in a world that moves too fast, that sells too much, that asks too much. But you don't have to lose yourself to it. You don't have to dissolve into its hunger. You don't have to chase a version of you that was never real. Because you were never meant to be a product. You were meant to be a person. And that means you are allowed to slow down, to feel, to be. So what happens now? Maybe nothing. Maybe something. Maybe you'll step outside after this video and just sit for a while without your phone, without a purpose. Just watching the wind, letting it touch you, letting it remind you that you're still here, that you're still breathing. That no matter what the world tells you, your worth isn't measured in speed or success, but in presence. Maybe for the first time you'll say no without guilt. Maybe you'll cancel something. Maybe you'll sit with boredom and not escape it. Maybe you'll cry. Maybe you'll laugh at how long you've run from yourself. Or maybe you'll just feel nothing and realize even that's okay. Because in that nothingness, there's space. And in that space, there's life, not a better version. Just you. So let this be your quiet revolution. Not louder. Not stronger. Not faster. But softer. Slower. Truer. You don't have to keep up. You don't have to improve. You don't have to prove anything. You are allowed to exist. And in a world that demands constant production, simply being is the most radical act of all.